Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Vargas. We begin tonight with the murder case that has gripped the nation, sparking sympathy, outrage, countless conspiracy theories, and returning every day to one central question. Is this mother a monster or mentally ill? There were several somewhat baffling twists today in the trial of Lindsay Clancy. The Massachusetts mother admits killing her 3 children, but says she did so while in the extreme throes of postpartum psychosis. Court was unexpectedly delayed this morning, speculation mounting outside the courtroom that the judge was considering moving for a mistrial after that explosive question a prosecutor asked Clancy's mother-in-law yesterday about whether Sue Clancy, as an avowed Catholic, was aware that murder is a mortal sin. In the end, the trial moved ahead. Clancy's defense attorney telling a reporter, quote, "Why would I want a mistrial and start this all over again?" Once court did get underway, the psychologist who treated Clancy dozens of times after the killings was back on the stand, making the defense's most important point.
My opinion is that she did have indeed a mental disease or defect. That's a legal construct, not a DSM-5 one, but she had bipolar disorder with postpartum psychoses. In addition, she was unable to conform her behaviors to the rule of law, and she had no appreciation for the wrongfulness of her act.
Dr. Paul Zeisel testified that Clancy called the day her ex-husband and calls the day that she strangled her kids to death, quote, "my tragedy." And for the first time, we heard how Lindsay now talks about 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan.
She does speak about her children.
What does she say?
She really loves them and misses them and thinks of them every single day, almost every moment of the day.
Zeisel testified yesterday that he first met with Clancy as she lay handcuffed to her hospital bed following the murders and her botched suicide attempt. He said she used his cell phone to call her now former husband, Patrick. She left him a voicemail. He listened in on the whole thing, in which she said that she heard a commanding male voice in her head telling her to kill the kids. Patrick is now remarried to another woman. TMZ obtained these photos of Patrick and his new wife on a New York City rooftop during a break in the trial this week. Meanwhile, prosecutors today pressed Dr. Zeisel on Clancy's claims of hearing voices.
How many times has she told you since the incident that she's heard a voice? Currently.
She has not heard voices since the event took place in 2023.
After denying the defense the chance to call a viral TikToker as an expert witness, the judge ended court abruptly for the day.
Due to an unforeseen circumstance, we're going to excuse you until tomorrow morning. All right? This is not something we saw coming, but you're not to speculate about what it is. You're not to hold it against either side.
An unforeseen circumstance, yet another puzzling development in a case full of plot twists. Let's bring in our panel, former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani and criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool. Neama, what do you think was going on there? Why did the judge, what's this unforeseen, what could that be, this unforeseen circumstance that caused them to end court abruptly and early today?
Well, Elizabeth, everyone was speculating that it was a motion for mistrial until Lauren Conlon, who's one of the best, reported and tweeted that out. I think it's just a scheduling issue, frankly, and I think the reason is the defense is almost done with their case in chief, and I think they wanted to go longer, but now they realize that the case is really progressing well for them. I think there's really no world right now where they're going to face a 12-0 conviction. It's going to be a hung jury or maybe even an outright acquittal. So you see this in defense cases when things change and they break for the defense. So, for instance, in the Diddy case, originally the defense asked for 2 weeks, then a week, then 2 days. Same thing here. We're really going to see about 3 days of a defense case, maybe 4 for a case that the prosecution spent weeks and weeks on. That's because I think the defense thinks and they know that there's reasonable doubt here, and they want to basically stand pat with the hand that they have.
Yeah, Brian, the prosecutors did their best to try and tarnish this expert witness, the psychiatrist Paul Zeisel. He faced aggressive cross-examination today. Dr. Zeisel said Lindsay Clancy was hearing this male voice instructing her to kill the kids and herself. But prosecutors, really hammered home the point that while Lindsay Clancy was telling all these family members have testified under oath, she's having disturbing thoughts of harming herself and the kids. She never before told them she was hearing voices. Is this a distinction? Is this important?
Hey, Elizabeth, I don't think that's a game changer. Here's what I think is a game changer. The prosecutors are desperately trying to cross-examine the defense's forensic psychologist expert. The last I recall in this case, Neama pointed it out, the burden of proof is on the prosecution.
Right.
They've got to be disproving that Clancy is not criminally responsible. And where was their expert witness in their case in chief? Need I note, in Massachusetts, Rule 14.4, prosecutors are permitted to get a court order to go visit Clancy, to send a psychologist over and visit with Clancy, interview her, give her written tests, to answer questions, to develop a theory that, no, I don't think she would have had homicidal behavior based on these medications. That never took place. So unless the prosecution has a Hail Mary rebuttal expert, they can call in what's called a rebuttal expert when the defense is done with their case, they better have some type of forensic clinical psychologist to refute what Zeisel is saying, or else, like Neama said, you're looking at likely a hung jury.
Yeah, Neama, I don't you're a former prosecutor. I don't get, they tried their best to dirty up this Dr. Zeisel. I think recognizing he was a powerful witness on the stand, they tried to say, well, you're you're paid to do this, so you're biased, aren't you? Which, by the way, that would make every expert witness ever testifying biased. How many, he was meeting with her too many times. He lent her his phone. Why were you there so soon after the murders? They tried to make a lot out of what it seems like him doing simply a thorough job.
No question. And in this particular case, obviously you have an expert witness, Elizabeth, but he's a percipient witness. He's not testifying as an expert. He's testifying that he heard the very first call between Lindsay Clancy and her husband, Patrick, after the murders. And she said that she heard voices. And guess what? One of the amazing things the defense has done here, and Elizabeth, I'm as pro-prosecution as they come, but I got to tip my hat to them, is that they've gotten out Lindsay Clancy's story without her having to take the stand, right? We're talking about the text messages through the mother-in-law, through her mother. Now you're hearing her own words. Oftentimes these are hearsay. I know there's hearsay exceptions, but they've done a masterful job using the rules of evidence here, getting that story out,
right,
while also protecting their client and not subjecting her to cross-examination.
Brian, prosecutors managed to elicit that Lindsay Clancy seemed foggy when Dr. Zeisel first examined her. She didn't know where she was, but here's the thing that did seem a little damning. She never asked about her kids.
Well, look, that is an important piece of information, right? But look, at the end of the day, Elizabeth, the only people that the jury is hearing about who's talked to Lindsay Clancy are defense. You're going to hear from an expert witness. You've got a percipient psychologist. They are the only ones that took the time to talk to her. And I will tell you, I've done a lot of jury trials where even if a jury's weighing, do I believe this psychologist or that psychologist or this expert or that expert? One of the first things they look at is, did that person talk to the defendant?
Right. Well, he clearly did. Yeah.
10 or 12 times. That is going to be more powerful than her not mentioning her kids.
Okay, Brian, I have another question for you as a defense attorney, because there was a hearing today without the jury present in the courtroom with the judge when a witness took the stand that the defense wanted to call. Her name was Emily Thorndike. She used to work at the psychiatric hospital where Lindsay Clancy checked herself in on New Year's Eve to get help. Thorndike apparently posted this video on TikTok after watching testimony in this case. Watch the video.
There's a reason that the doctors who are there during the week are only assigned 4 to 5 patients, because you cannot spend a long amount of time as a doctor with 23 different patients. So the job of the weekend doctor, as we call them, the holiday doctor, is literally to just go quickly check in with every patient. It is not a lengthy meeting.
So defense attorneys saw that video. They tracked her down. They called her into court today. She testified in front of the judge under questioning from both both counsel on both sides. And the judge said he found her credible, but since she wasn't working at the hospital at the time that Lindsay Clancy was there, he didn't allow her to testify. But her point was that Lindsay Clancy went to this psychiatric hospital, checked herself in on New Year's Eve, and that doctors literally, she said, spent only 20 minutes per patient, according to hospital policy, because they were stretched so thin. It raises real questions yet again about the level of care that Lindsay Clancy was getting.
Yeah, that's a great point, but I think the judge did the right thing here. Why? Because the TikToker you're showing here, she was not working there at the time this all unfolded. So that would be highly prejudicial to the prosecution. That said, though, Elizabeth, the defense team can try to find somebody else, right, that was working there in the hospital at the time to confirm or corroborate what this TikToker is trying to get into evidence.
Yeah, well, the TikToker posted that video after a prosecution witness went on the stand and testified, oh, it's a great psychiatric hospital. She got great care there. And this video was posted by a former employee at the hospital saying, yeah, no, that doesn't happen, especially on New Year's Eve weekend and holidays when staff is stretched thin. Neama, Rahmani, Brian Claypool, we will have you back, I'm sure, as this case continues. Neama, I think you're right. I think this is going to wrap up really fast. It looks like the defense is feeling pretty confident. We shall see. All right. Thank you both so much.